Citizen Vigilante. All right, so before I start this, I got to do two disclaimers. One, spoilers. Yes. Two, this video is covered under fair use. Okay? It's within YouTube's guidelines with that. And just to make sure the robots don't get confused, this is really for the benefit of the robots. We're going to modify the movie a little bit. We're going to flip it and we're going to do little things to it, make alterations to it. That's really for the benefit of YouTube's algorithm and robots, okay? I want to make that clear. I'm not circumventing any rules. I'm circumventing the confused robots that don't understand the rules. Anyways, with those disclaimers out of the way, I want to talk about this movie, Citizen Vigilante. Citizen Vigilante has an imperfect protagonist. This is something most people don't pick up on about the movie. The message of the movie is actually a lot more complicated than this protagonist is a good guy that's taking the law into his own hands because of the corrupt politicians. And yes, that is true, but it goes deeper than that. The reality is when you have corrupt politicians and corrupt elites not doing their job and letting real criminals run amok and victimize law-abiding, tax-paying citizens, the first people to stand up and be vigilantes are not the indoctrinated masses that are just trained to be as cooperative and docile as possible. In fact, the person that is most likely to become this type of person is already somebody that has probably a criminal background himself. That's the irony. So, in a land of demons, a sinner looks a lot like a saint. And so you see the protagonist in the movie, the main character, he goes to brothels. He actually caused an innocent person to have a possibly fatal car crash in one of the scenes, just to illustrate a point. That was an innocent person, you know. He basically mowed down a SWAT team for no reason, even though he had a perfectly good escape tunnel that would have allowed him to escape without hurting any of them. Again, so this person has shown that, you know, he's, other than his methods being a bit extreme, which I'm sure we're all okay with that, but it goes beyond his methods just being a little extreme. Obviously, there's certain aspects to him that make him less than a actual saint-like protagonist. Let me put it this way. The guy is not literally Jesus Christ, okay? The guy is not a total, unambiguously good person. However, when he's juxtaposed to the politicians and the judges that are literally letting people that victimize people run free, he looks like a saint in comparison to them. So the idea here is that the moral failings of a society, when they're so severe and so in your face that it's just unbearable, what ends up happening is the lesser of the two evils, a man that is clearly flawed, clearly not perfect, clearly has his own moral problems, becomes the good. He becomes the good, and he is the best person in the movie. I mean, he is the most morally righteous person, even more morally righteous than the average tax-paying citizens. Why? Because the average tax-paying citizens actually allowed this to happen. He's actually the only one committing to putting himself in harm's way, because he could get caught, he could get killed, you know? He's the only person putting himself in harm's way for the greater good. So despite all his moral failings, he's actually the best person in the movie still, even though he does have his dark side, and even though he's not a morally, unambiguously good person. And so the nuance of this plot is extremely important to me. I really, really like the nuance of this plot. It was a very well thought out plot. I think the movie punches way above its weight for its budget. It doesn't look like a high budget film, but I think it punches way above its weight for its budget. And I would say that it's probably one of the most important movies of all time. Maybe not purely on cinematic grounds, but it's a cultural icon of the time we live in. 100%. This movie is a cultural representation of the current times we live in. And the scariest thing about this movie is undoubtedly people will watch it and ideas will pop into their heads. And that's why the movie is banned in Germany. Yeah, absolutely. Undoubtedly, this movie will inspire people to do certain things, and I'll just leave it at that. And I'm not saying that it should, but it will. But it's just the fact of the matter is the people that made this movie were frustrated, as we all are, of the state of things. And I think instead of actually doing something, they chose to just make a movie out of it. And I think making this into a movie was the moderate choice because some people felt like really doing this. So instead of really doing this, they're like, let's make a movie about it, right? And so I'll remind you that anybody that has this level of anger, there are artistic outlets for you to express this anger, and filmmaking is one of them. One of them. Anyways, do with that what you will. Guys, I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate you guys for supporting the channel. All you guys that do that. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. And if you haven't checked this movie out already, even though I just spoiled all of it, I do recommend you check it out. It's a great film. See you guys in the next one. Jordan Jerub signing off.